And do you know what? Speaking of dogs, I can show it off. I've got the painting. I have the painting. Wait just a sec.
Go get it.
Faraway Lucas and lovely audience at home, same question. Would you trust your dog with your life?
No, not at all. I wouldn't trust them with their own lives.
Actually, to be fair, your dog really likes food, right? Your dog would be the dog equivalent of the bird meme. That's like, I would trade your life for one corn chip.
Yeah, like, I think probably both of them would end up dying if there was food on the line.
Yeah. So do you think, like, if you were just, like, walking your dog and there was a choice between, like, you, safety, and perhaps a corn chip that just runs straight into traffic?
Almost undoubtedly if they weren't on Alicia.
Nowadays, seeing eye dogs are allowed to go pretty much anywhere their human masters are, and that is partially attributed to the tireless work of a man called Maurice Frank, a guy who was dared to walk into traffic on literally the first day he owned such a dog. So, Lucas, how much do you know about seeing eye dogs? Like, my eyes work. Not very well, because I'm like in my 30s now, but like, have you ever interacted with someone who needs a seeing eye dog, or like, learned anything about how they're trained and what they're able to do?
I've watched some videos on them being trained and stuff. I'm not overly familiar. I highly respect those dogs, and I've like interacted with a few, casually through interactions of like meeting people in public that have them. But yeah, just I don't know too much about like them and their training, but I've watched a few videos here and there to kind of like grasp the general concept, and I've actually met a couple that were in training.
Yeah, like they're remarkable creatures, and I've written a few articles about them in the past for Today I Found Out and other places where I've like contributed content. And the other thing that really surprised me, but it made so much sense when it was explained, is that seeing eye dogs can shit on command.
I'm Steve-O, and that's Steve Will Do It. And this is the poo cannon. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
I guess that does make sense, but it just sounds really weird, right?
Yeah, so like people, why do you know this, Karl? Well, I write articles for sites like Today I Found Out, and one of the questions a fan submitted is, how do blind people know when their dogs take a shit? And it turns out that like this is a problem that people training seeing eye dogs anticipated and train the dogs to shit on command. And they even teach the blind or partially sighted person, like, okay, here's the command and here's the specific motion you can do to see when your dog is done. Because they have to train male dogs to specifically poo and wee a different way, because male dogs normally lift up their back leg. But for the sake of like working as a seeing eye dog, they have to learn to pee like a female dog does and crouch down. And apparently that's how like blind people know. Like you stroke the back of the dog, and if its back end is still going down, it's still doing its business.
It is hilarious as someone that owns sausage dogs, seeing them when they try to cock their leg, because most of the time they just pee like a female dog because they got little legs. But every now and then they'll like, smell on a lamppost or something. Like, oh, a big German Shepherd's like pissed 3 times higher than my entire height, so I'm gonna cock my leg, and it's so funny. They just hit the floor.
Yeah, well, I think every time I think about your dogs, 'cause Lucas owns like 2 sausage dogs. I'll just never forget the first time I met your dogs, and I was at your house and I was a little bit drunk, and you were like petting your dog, and he was like lying with his like little legs in the air, and just looked and I burst out laughing, and you went, Karl, what sort of went, Lucas? Your dog's dick's longer than his leg. And just every time you mention your dog, I just giggle to myself and say, Lucas has got a dog who's got a dick longer than his legs. I just think, what is that life like?
Because that fact is still, like, it's not true now, but when they were a puppy, it was massively out of proportion.
I couldn't stop laughing, I was so drunk. But let's bring it back and talk about Maurice Frank now. So, he's known today for being the founder of the Seeing Eye, which teaches dogs how to function as a pair of eyeballs for a person who can't see or really struggles to see. Presumably you've seen those like TikToks and interviews of people who are blind or partially sighted where they talk about the fact, yeah, total blindness is a lot rarer than you think. And a lot of people who are quote-unquote blind can see a little bit, but that's not enough, and that's why they need help.
Yeah, there's a distinction between totally blind and legally blind. right?
Think that if they went blind, it would be like having the lights turned off in a room and they'd be just left in darkness all day. But in reality, about 80% of people with legal blindness still have some form of usable vision.
I've had to have that discussion with my, technically they're not an optician, they're like an optometrist, I think.
Eyeball doctor.
Eyeball doctor. My eyeball doctor has basically said, like, hey, you know, in the past, because people weren't, like, glued to screens all day, every day, we used to see, like, deterioration of your eyesight stop around your 20s and 30s. That's not happening anymore. At some point, you might be legally blind, because my prescription gets, like, notably worse every year.
I've been to an optician's once, and it turns out that I've got one eye that's perfect, and I've got one wrong eye. And I've got astigmatism in one eye. So as long as I do this, I'm alright. I can see fine. So like, well, can I just get... And I got annoyed, and I don't wear glasses, because when I asked them, okay, can I get glasses with just like one prescription lens? And like, no, you still got to pay 300 quid for a pair of glasses. But only one of the lenses is going to be fucking glass.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is if I need to read something that's like, so I can see perfectly fine, but it's like, there's like a specific distance, it's like 10 to 12 feet, things get a bit blurry, but I'll just do this. And I'm fine.
Karl, why the fuck have you not committed and got a monocle?
I was tempted, but then I'd have to like look at this all the time, because I've already got, like I said, the wang eye.
No, you just like, you wear waistcoats all the time, or something with a pocket, like a shirt with a pocket.
Yep.
You attach it on a chain, and then just when you need the monocle, you pull the monocle out. You'll look dapper.
I think I could pull off the monocle though, but yeah, it's so anyone's ever wondered, like, Karl, you half squint a lot. It's like, no, one eye's just like a little bit blurry. I've got the wang eye.
Fucking both are eyeing a shit, so you know.
Well, speaking of, like, you know, eyes being shit, we should probably explain how Maurice Frank became blind. It's an interesting story, because he was born being able to see. And then when he was about, I have the age here, 6, he was blinded in one eye while riding a horse, supposedly when a branch hit him in the eye. It's got to suck, right? 6 years old, gets, like, slapped in the face by a branch. A branch. Totally blind.
Boy, Lenny, you sure look hungry. Have some nuts.
Hey, thanks. Ah, my eye!
10 years later, he loses the other eye in a boxing match.
The doctor said I could take this patch off 5 minutes a day.
Hey, that's just enough time to see Santa Claus.
Ow! Why, Santa?
I think he might have just been destined to be blind.
Yeah, 'cause I remember when I was younger, like, did you ever have this with, like, was your dad, like, obsessed with the idea that, like, you'd go blind if you did, like, a dangerous activity? Because my dad was always telling us, like, don't dick around with insert thing we were dicking around with, because you'll have your eye out. And my dad always had a fucking ace up his sleeve in the form of a kid who lived on our estate who lost one of his eyes. And I felt bad for that kid, because just every time, like, me and my brothers would be doing something stupid, my dad would be like, well, you don't want, like, stop messing around or you'll lose one of your eyes. That's never going to happen. We'll tell that to so-and-so down the road. It's like, okay, they lost their eye and it sucks for them, but stop using them as an example.
It's the Arrested Development joke where there's a friend who's got one arm of the, like, father in the family, and every time they do anything, he, like, gets this guy to come in. It's like Walt J. Weatherman or something like that, and he's like, oh, you know, this is why you shouldn't lie, and it ends with them, like, hitting him in a car accident and losing an arm during the car accident and, like, blood spurting everywhere, and then the guy just runs up to the kids and is like, see, this is why you never lie.
Why? If someone had left a note, this innocent man would still have his arm. Why?
That's why you always leave a note.
So that's a good idea. There's a Lee Mack joke about that. He was talking about, he did a bit on CBeebies when he had kids. I'm going somewhere with this. And there was a presenter on CBeebies at some point who had one arm. And weirdo parents complained of like, well, what am I supposed to tell my kids? And it's like, well, how about that? Just some people are born different to us and we shouldn't give them shit for it. Like you are, you weirdo. What the fuck is your problem? And Lee Max bit sentence around the fact like, yeah, he doesn't see the complaints because like it's really handy for him. He said, long story short, when my kids ask, they don't pick their nose anymore.
It's it kind of reminds me on a more serious note of when I think it was Pop Idol at the time, not X Factor. Will Young was the winner, right? And
I think so. Is he the one with square head?
I don't know, but
I'll put a picture of him on screen. You can, like, bro's got square head. I've got square head. I'm a fellow square head enjoyer, so
either they were openly gay or they came out as being gay as a winner or something. But all of a sudden, it's like a bunch of parents had to explain to the kids, including my parents to me, what being gay meant. And to me, it was just like, well, do you know how, like, your uncle's married to a guy and they love each other? That's what gay means. I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah.
It's the simplest thing to explain, right? It's like just some people. Like, do you know how, like, you know, your auntie's married to a guy who's got black hair and I'm married to a lady who has red hair?
Yeah.
Some people don't like red hair or black hair, they don't mind. They just want to, like, marry a boy or a girl.
Yeah, you know how those two guys that we know that are married, yeah, that's what being gay means. And it's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's like when Teletubbies was on TV, and like again, it's always weirdo parents who just don't have jobs. They've got nothing better to do than just like interfere with like their kids' lives, or just like they're the parents who stand outside school and get annoyed at the teachers for like daring to have a social life or something. It's like Tinky Winky had a purse, and people will complain like, "Well, Tinky Winky's got a purse. What's that about?" And like the creator of Teletubbies is like, "He's a fucking Teletubby. Get over it. Tinky Winky has a fucking purse because it's a cartoonish, light-hearted show. Who gives a shit?"
Time for Teletubbies.
Well, let's bring it back to Maurice Frank now. And you would think being rendered totally blind at 16 years of age by just life continually kicking your eyeballs in the nuts would leave him despondent. But no, he lived a full life, and he got through most of his days by just hiring dudes to serve as his eyeballs. And he even found a career as a moderately successful insurance salesman.
That's a very weird statement, hiring dudes to be your eyeball.
Well, that's the only option you had. You either had just someone who could walk you around if you were rich, like you had like basically just a servant who would just walk around and be your eyes, or when you specifically needed help doing something, hire somebody who can see what they're doing. And for Maurice Frank, you just hire young guys because, you know, they didn't charge very much money. The problem is that these young people didn't really want to like commit to the idea of being a blind dude's eyeballs, and they would frequently just fuck off and leave him alone, standing there like a lemon. And he was blind, so when someone just left him, the fuck's he gonna do?
What happens if I don't know, I do this?
Yeah, you're just left there all of a sudden. It's almost as if there's some kind of creature that's not a human that's way more loyal
than just a teenage boy. And that's the thing as well, like, again, going back to like just interviews with people who are blind, I think too, like, there's problems that you don't see as problems because obviously they don't affect you, but when they're pointed out, you're like, holy shit, yeah, that would be a big deal. Why haven't we done something to address that? There's an interview with like a blind person, and they're asking like, what's the biggest like day-to-day challenge for you that people might not expect? And they say, well, it's paying for stuff. So what? So in the UK, our money is all different sizes. Like a £5 note is different to a £10 note, and I think even newer ones have braille on them, right?
Yeah, and they all of the coins are different shapes and textures and stuff, so it's easily identifiable even if you're vision impaired.
Yeah, and you can teach someone the difference between a £5 note and a £10 note. In America, all their notes are the same size and have the same texture, and like they ask a blind person, okay, yeah, that we'd not considered that, so how do you tell the difference between a 1 and a 20 when you go into a store? It's like, I've just got to trust that the cashier is not going to rip me off.
The way money works for me is it really doesn't. I mean, it's all the same size. There's no way to distinguish between any of the paper money in this country at all.
She's fucked, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. And obviously, like, you'd hope that people wouldn't rip off a blind person. But if you are someone who's inclined to rip someone off, I can't think of an easier target than someone who can't fucking see.
It's $14.
Thank you.
Fives are on top, singles are on the bottom.
Have I gotten screwed? Sure, of course. I mean, I couldn't tell you when.
In that scenario, yeah. Obviously with no safeguards put in place. And another one that like you wouldn't necessarily think about that I saw like a while ago on TikTok was a blind person talking about their experience at the gym and how a person came over to them, like a woman came over and was having a go at them for basically like luring at them and staring. And they were just like, I'm just sat on my machine and I'm blind. I'm not staring at you. I'm just staring forward.
That's another one, yeah, I've heard. It's it's another script that I wrote of like why do blind people wear sunglasses, and it's personal preference for a lot of blind people, supposedly, like according to like the research that I did, and like it's to avoid stuff like that. Of like it's just a very immediate visual indicator, ironically enough, that I can't fucking see, and it avoids like a lot of awkward questions. It's like the white cane, right? If you're holding the white cane, it's just an immediate visual indicator that the person can't see very well.
Or the white and red cane, and I can't remember what the distinction between the two are.
I'll put a guide on screen for it, but I know it's like the blind person wears the white cane. The Daredevil cane.
Yeah, there's two different canes, obviously, and as I say, I can't remember what the distinction between the two is, but yes, just the moment you see like someone walking around with a cane is an easy way of knowing, like, hey, they probably don't need like assistance for the most part because they know what they're doing generally, but like they are at least, you know, indicating that you should, like, hopefully, if you're a nice person, just get out of their way.
And make accommodations that they ask for, and otherwise just let them go about their business as you would anybody else. And I do think there's a great moment in Frasier where this happens, where just like Marty, like his dad gets away with taking his dog everywhere, and just someone comes like, "Sorry, sir, you're not allowed to have dogs in here." He goes, "What? What? Who said that?" Anyway.
I'm sorry, sir. No dogs allowed.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, after, like, you know, he'd been abandoned one too many times by people he specifically paid to serve as his eyeballs in a given moment, Maurice Frank started searching out an alternative, and he eventually stumbled across an article in a newspaper about, I have it here, a school in Switzerland that trained dogs to serve as the eyes for World War I veterans who'd been blinded by mustard gas. Not one to waste any time, like Maurice Frank sat down and wrote a letter to the author of that article, simply saying, "I want one of those dogs."
I mean, that's pretty valid if you hear about this dog that can help with your blindness. Yeah, that's something you're going to want to seek out, right?
Also, before anyone asks, like, well, how did a blind guy write an article? Plenty of blind people can write. Plenty of blind people can do things like use phones or other technologies. And this is something like the actor Charlie Cox has talked about when he was speaking to the consultants that they arrange for Daredevil, for him to better portray someone who's blind. Of like a lot of consultants and people who, like, you know, are blind or like partially sighted or help those who are. It's like, yeah, in movies, whenever an actor pretends to be blind, they act like they can't do anything.
Yeah. Like
they act, I mean, or they like do it really kind of like holding their hands out in front of them, stumbling around like a person had the lights turned off. And it's like, well, okay, that would happen if you suddenly lost the ability to see. But for a lot of blind people, they've been interacting with the world in this way for years.
Yeah, and
they're very comfortable doing so, provided that they're in a location or environment that they are comfortable with or know the general layout of.
Yeah, I it's interesting as well because I went through an experience when I went to Hamburg, and it was a like blind experience.
Yes, you told me about this, right?
Yeah, so it was I'm just trying to like find the name of it now, but
it's the restaurant, right, where they walk you through. This is how like a blind person perceives the world, and it ends like a meal or something, right? And all the guides and stuff for people who can't see.
So there's two different experiences that you can sign up for. There's one that is dinner in the dark, and that is like the dining experience. I did the one where it's like a walkthrough experience where you basically went through several simulated experiences, like going through a park and going through a busy street and stuff like that. And it's all in total pitch black. And they then teach you like, hey, I think like you'll get given like a cane and get like slowly walk through the experience and get taught like these are the sounds and sights that you need to like listen out for, and just like the like for example like the textures on the road and stuff that you need to feel for that indicate certain things. And yeah, it was just a really useful insight of like how much of the world you don't realize is actually helping the visually impaired, and that's why they can do so many things to like accommodate for themselves, and like as well as having seeing eye dogs.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, the scenes in Daredevil where he's in his own house and like he's cooking or like making himself like a drink or something like that, and he's like obviously thinks he knows where everything is, and you just see the actor reaching out and grabbing stuff, and like that was because a blind consultant told him like, well, in our own houses we know where everything is.
Yeah.
The same way, like, if you wake up, like with a hangover or at 1 o'clock in the morning, you can stumble your way to your bathroom with your eyes half closed because you know where everything is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can see, and again, it's a great performance from Charlie Cox. It's a lot better than the
Ben Affleck, right?
Ben Affleck one where he just acts like a person that can see. And he's like, well, I've got superpowers. But Charlie Cox actually, like, acts like a person that can't see and relies a lot on kind of muscle memory to do the performance. And you can see that instead of looking for things, they are like looking straight ahead but reaching and feeling for items.
Because that's the way, like, people who are unable to see, like, that's the way they interact with the world primarily. But, I get back to Maurice Frank now. So in early 1928, after a brief correspondence with the author of that article, Frank made his way to Switzerland. And he began training with a female German Shepherd he called Buddy for reasons he never elaborated on, but I'm just going to say Buddy was a good girl. Buddy was his buddy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not hard to read into that. Like, Buddy was their buddy.
Yes.
Right?
And after a couple of months of training, because the dog itself was already trained, but Maurice needs to be trained on how to interact and use the dog properly. It's one thing for the dog to be a replacement for your eyes if you don't know the specific commands you need to use and the various tells that it has to inform you about the state of the world that you're walking through. It's not going to be like that helpful. But after those few months, the bonding of man and dog was complete, and Frank returned to America with his eyeball replacing Wonder Pupper.
As I put my hand down on Buddy, I knew that she was going to be my Declaration of Independence and give me back the freedom that I so long desired to go and come as I pleased, and that she also would be the pioneer of the guide dog movement in the United States for the blind men and women who neither wanted charity nor pity.
Yeah, like, if you don't both know how to communicate and work together, then it's not going to be of any use, right?
So do you need to know the command that tells it to take shit?
You do, yeah.
And keen to sell the public on how good of a girl Buddy was, Frank, when he returned to America, invited the press to watch and see how much more independence and freedom he was afforded by having his dog. And while he was talking to the gathered press about the fact that, well, with Buddy, I can do anything a man with two eyes could, if not more. And a member of the press gathered joked, well, if you're so confident in your dog, walk into traffic.
Crossing a street where Buddy slows and stops for an up curb, which Morris detects with a cane and then steps up.
If you're not confident in that dog's ability and you're questioning that person, like, is that journalist in their mind sentencing that person to death?
Well, they said it as a joke. At least according to Frank when he's recounting the story like years later. But Frank, as soon as he heard this, without a word, just gave the command for Buddy to walk forward towards a nearby road and walked across it without incident. And that's like a thing if people are wondering, well, how do they train seeing eye dogs to like cross the road? It's a really, really involved process.
Since I've started working with Ziggy, we've encountered a bit of a problem.
Ziggy is trained not to let me cross the road when a car is approaching. If a car stops to let us pass, I can't encourage Ziggy to cross the road because then he will start to think it's okay to let me go in front of cars. A big no-no.
And Lucas, are you familiar with the term intelligent disobedience when it comes to the training of guide dogs?
No, I'm not. It kind of reminds me of the term malicious compliance, though, right?
It's probably like the inverse of that because it's used for good. So intelligent disobedience is teaching a potential guide dog to ignore an order, which is very difficult and requires a dog with a very specific temperament, because dogs generally are trained to obey specific commands. And you have to train the dog to ignore certain commands and use its own judgment, which feels weird to say about a dog. So, for example, like if you tell a seeing eye dog to walk forward and there is a road and there's traffic, the dog has to not walk forward and ignore that order. And it's the thing you have to train. You have to train the dog to recognize when it's safe and ignore like an order to walk forward if it's. And that's the idea of like the fucking dog making decisions. And that's why like the trust between like, you know, a blind person and their dog is so fucking like critical, because you are literally putting your life in its little furry paws.
That dog can't just listen to like you or anyone else. It has to know when things are safe, and it literally is your eyes. Like, it has better judgment than you do in case of like, you know, in situations of knowing when cars are coming over the street.
Yes, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll try and track it down, because I've always been fascinated by this topic, because when I was younger, I read a book, and it was from the perspective of a dog, learning to be a seeing eye dog. And I'll try and track down what it is. It's probably just a short story that I read when I was younger, like in school or something. But they talk about seeing the world from the dog's perspective, and they talk about all the various ways that the dog has to learn to ignore specific commands, and how it, like, you know, differentiates itself from the other dogs and becomes a seeing eye dog. For example, like, you know, when it's trained to walk under walk forward. Oh, there's a post that it can duck under, which most dogs would just duck under without thinking. But a seeing eye dog can't do that, because obviously the blind person, like, it's guiding, doesn't know there's a pole in the way.
Yeah.
And just little things like that. I'll try and find the name of that book or short story, or maybe it was a poem, I don't know. So I distinctly recall some details, but it was like 20 years ago when I read this.
I read very different dogs' children's books to you, because I just read Harry MacLeod books.
I like, there's a bunch of animal books. I remember reading like Maurice and his like Very Educated Rats, which is just the Pied Piper, but the Pied Piper is a cat instead of a dude who just like fucking just like slams on the flute to get all the rats to follow him. Also, can we shout outs to, is it Shrek 3, 4 with the Pied Piper in it, and the Pied Piper just like surfs on rats everywhere? Is that one of the Shreks, or is it Puss in Boots?
Pied Piper.
I guess it's either Puss in Boots or Shrek 4, because I don't remember that, and I've seen Shrek 1 through 3.
Yeah, I think it's one of the Shrek movies. Just the Pied Piper's in, he just surfs everywhere on rats like a fucking dog. Anyway,
like Shrek 4 is like Rumpelstiltskin, right?
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? Flute those ogres a lullaby? What? Oh, no. Oh! Okay, got it!
But getting back to Frank once again, after, like, you know, walking into traffic to prove that he trusted his dog, he set up the Seeing Eye to train similar animals for people in the States. And he basically spent the rest of his life campaigning so that his Seeing Eye dog and the Seeing Eye dogs of other people who could not see got to go wherever they could. And it's thanks to Maurice Frank that whenever you go to like a store or a location, there's normally a sign outside that'll say, no dogs allowed, except for guide dogs.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I will say, like, just, I think, did you refer to them as, like, the keeper of the Seeing Eye or something earlier? And just...
The founder.
That's just the founder, is that it?
Because Seeing Eye dogs is what Americans refer to them, and I know we have a primarily American audience, so I've been saying Seeing Eye dogs throughout the entire thing, but over in the UK, it's a guide dog. I will say, though, it is a special day when you're in a pub and someone walks in with, like, a really cool dog, and you're like, yeah. So I'll never forget, like, the Old Man pub in my hometown that, like, my girlfriend at the time, God, like 20 fucking years ago. Jeez. So she worked in a pub, she was like 14, 15. And I go in there and get, like a glass of, like, Diet Coke or something. And there's a guy who came in with his, like, dog. and his dog would just drink. Like he'd buy a pint for his dog.
Fucking
it was
hell.
fucking incredible. And do you know what? Speaking of dogs, I can show it off. I've got the painting. I have the painting. Wait just a sec.
Go get it.
Okay, so my mum watches these videos, so she'll love this little cameo. But Luke, what were you saying?
It's just fantastic because the audience can't see. But I have a different camera angle, and I could see Carl's little like excited scamper as he runs into the other room.
Yes. So I guess to end on, like people who watch this channel for a while probably know I've told several stories about my dogs. There's Penny, my beloved Staffy Heinz 57 varieties mongrel cross. That would like we affectionately refer to as creeping Jesus, who would like just go. Oh no! I dropped the paint. It's fine. That was loud, but it's fine. It's fine. And there is something I own. It's one of my most treasured possessions. Give me a sec.
Who we just dropped on the floor.
It drops on. It's fine because you don't realise why it's fine because it's made of fucking wood. So
it's solid, this shit.
When I was younger and I'd go visit my granddad's house, I remember one of my earliest memories is this painting. And I would, for some reason, obsessed with this painting. And it's a painting of one of the dogs that my granddad owned. And when my granddad passed away, like 15, 20 years ago, while I was at university, I think he passed away, was it at university? Either way, it was a long time ago. And I was asked, like, is there anything you want of your granddad's to remember him? I want his painting. I want the painting of Jinky. That was his dog. And my mum was like, I fucking hate that. I hate it. I hate it so much. And because I was at university and then, like, just moving around a lot. And it's like, and it weighs a fucking ton. Like, there was no way to get it to my house. And, like, when I bought my place, thanks to all the fans who supported me all these years who allowed me to do so, she went, can you finally get that fucking painting out of my house? It's like, why do you hate it so much? It's like, because it's fucking ugly. It's the most garish, fuck ugly thing. But there he is. It's Jinky. And there's his nickname. Shitface. And just this, like, loving portrait of this old dog. And just in, like, the regal text underneath. Shitface.
Oh god, it's great. And fun fact as well for everyone watching, Shitface was actually our pet of the week once.
It was, yes.
During our Wiki Weekdays podcast, where all of our patrons submit pictures of pets to be pet of the week. And one week when Karl was finally able to acquire
my inheritance,
the glorious painting, we just nicknamed Shitface pet of the week.
I'll be honest, it is a shitface, right? In the most affectionate way.
Oh, in an affectionate way, yes.
The problem is, though, because it weighs, like, a lot. This is fucking wood. And there's no, like, place in my house I feel confident, like, displaying it where it won't fall off the wall and shatter. Because it fell flat when it fell over. It's pretty solid, it's not going to break. So, at the moment, it's just in my window, so when people go past my house, there's just this giant portrait of a dog that's called Shitface. And it makes me laugh every time I come home. Every time I put out my key in my front door and I was looking, there's Jinky.
Good old Shitface.
Good old Shitface. Cheers for watching, everybody. Go out there and pet some dogs. Except for guide dogs and senile dogs. They're at work.